Ellie was 16 when it happened. The front door opened, and her parents stood in the doorway. She was on the floor of her bedroom, bruised, blood on her face, her body shaking. Tears streamed down her cheeks. Her hands tried to cover herself, like she could hide from what had just happened. Mason stood nearby, calm, quiet, not saying a word. He didn't look sorry. He didn't look scared. He just stood there, breathing hard, like he was proud. Her parents looked at her. Then they looked at Mason. Their faces stayed still. No shock, no anger, no questions. Her mother's eyes met her father's. Without a single word, they turned and walked out of the house. Ellie stayed where she was. The room was too quiet. Her whole body ached. She didn't know what to think. Maybe they were going to call someone. Maybe they were going for help. But time passed. 10 minutes. 20. Nothing. Mason sat on the edge of her bed, scrolling on his phone, like nothing had happened. Ellie stayed still. She felt like she was somewhere else, like the room wasn't real. Why didn't they stop him? Why didn't they take her with them? She didn't understand. 30 minutes later, the door opened again. Footsteps moved through the house. Her father walked into the room first, holding something wrapped in a towel. Her mother followed him. This time, they didn't look at Ellie at all. Their eyes were fixed on Mason. Mason stood up slowly. His smile was gone now. He looked confused. He took one step forward, but stopped when her father pulled out the gun. Ellie froze. She had never seen a gun in their house before. Mason's face turned pale. He raised his hands, backing up. "What are you doing?" Mason asked, voice thin with fear. Her parents didn't answer. Her mother walked over to Ellie and knelt beside her. She touched Ellie's arm gently, helping her sit up. Her hands were cold. She still said nothing. Ellie looked up. Her father's hand didn't shake. The gun was pointed straight at Mason's chest. For a moment, everything was silent. No one moved. Mason stepped back, hands still raised. "I didn't mean." Her father cut him off. His voice was quiet but firm. "You already did." In that moment, Ellie knew something had changed. Her parents hadn't walked out because they didn't care. They had made a choice. A quiet one. One that didn't involve the police. One that said, in the clearest way, they were not going to let this happen again. They met at church. He was older, well-liked, always helpful. People noticed him. The way he carried chairs, stayed late to clean, made everyone laugh. Adults trusted him. Kids wanted his attention. He noticed her quietly. A look. A small compliment. Then more. He said she was different. That others didn't get her. He told her she was smart, thoughtful, more mature than people around her. His words made her feel seen. At home, she felt ignored. At school, she felt invisible. But he noticed everything. How she tied her hair. How she bit her lip when thinking. How she always sat alone. He started messaging her. A joke here, a picture there. Then longer messages. Things about his past. Sad stories. Deep thoughts. He said he could only be real with her. That she was the only one who listened, who cared. She believed it. It felt good to be chosen. He told her to keep their talks private. People wouldn't understand, he said. They would ruin what they had. He warned her gently. Smiled when she promised to stay quiet. It felt like a secret, but a beautiful one. She thought it meant trust. He came to her house a few times, helped her parents with chores, asked questions, made them laugh. He said she was special, kind, wise beyond her years. Her parents smiled, agreed, said he was a good influence. They liked him. No one saw anything strange. He made rules. Slowly. At first, they felt like care. Let me know when you get home. Don't talk to that person. They're not good for you. Wear something else that suits you better. Then it became, don't go out without telling me. Don't text anyone unless I say. Don't say no. She followed the rules. When she didn't, he'd go quiet. Or angry. He'd say she hurt him. That he gave everything and she gave nothing. That she was lucky he stayed. She felt guilty. Confused. So she tried harder. She changed. Her clothes. Her words. Her habits. Her world got smaller, until he was at the center. She stopped speaking up. Stopped asking questions. Stopped thinking she had a choice. To others, he was still the same. Still smiling. Still helpful. Still trusted. No one looked deeper. Not the people at church. Not her teachers. Not her parents. They saw a kind man doing kind things. Not the man who made her scared to breathe wrong. He told her it was love. That no one else would care the way he did. That she was lucky. That he made her better. She believed it for a time. But inside, something was breaking. She couldn't laugh the same way. Couldn't sleep easily. Couldn't speak without checking his eyes first. Everything in her life bent toward him, and she didn't know how or when it happened. And still no one saw. Her body hurt more often now. Some days it was her arm, other days her side, her back, or her face. The bruises showed up like stains she couldn't wash off. She tried to cover them with long sleeves and makeup, but sometimes people still noticed. At school, a teacher asked once if everything was okay. She nodded and looked away. A friend pointed at a bruise and asked what happened. She said she fell. Another time, someone asked why she seemed so tired, so quiet. She smiled and said it was nothing. But the questions kept coming. Quiet ones. Careful ones. A counselor asked to speak with her one day. Asked about the bruises, about her changes, about the boy she was spending time with. She kept her answers short. She didn't want to say the wrong thing. She didn't want it to get worse. Someone called home. A teacher, maybe. Her parents didn't say much about it. Just that people talked too much. That teachers needed to mind their own business. When she told them she didn't feel safe, they looked annoyed. Her mother told her to stop exaggerating. Her father said she was being dramatic. Every time she tried to bring it up, they brushed it off. They said she was clumsy, always had been. Said she tripped over her own feet. Said maybe she should be more careful. When she stayed in her room for hours, they called her lazy. When she cried, they told her to stop being so sensitive. They noticed the bruises. Of course they did. But they didn't ask questions. They looked, paused, then went back to whatever they were doing. Her mother said makeup could cover anything. Her father said not to cause problems. She started to hear things they said when they thought she wasn't listening. Her mother once whispered that she brought it on herself, that she was always pushing too far, saying too much. Her father said she needed to learn how to behave, how to be quiet. They didn't sound angry, just tired, like she was a burden. It didn't make sense. How could they not see what was happening? Or maybe they did. Maybe they just didn't care. Or maybe they thought she deserved it. One night, she overheard them talking in the kitchen. The walls were thin. Her name was said. Then his. Her mother's voice low and sharp. She starts things. She knows what she's doing. Her father's voice slower, tired. We can't afford trouble. She didn't understand what they meant by that. What kind of trouble? What couldn't they afford? A memory came back to her, the first time they met him. How quickly they liked him. How her father laughed at his jokes. How her mother asked him to stay for dinner. How easy it all seemed. How no one asked him questions. She started to wonder if they saw something in him, something they needed. Not just for her, for themselves. A favor. A secret. A connection. She didn't know the full story, but something felt wrong. It was more than silence. It was more than looking away. It was like they had chosen a side, and it wasn't hers. When she cried, they told her to be strong. When she tried to talk, they told her to stop. She was told she was making things worse. That she was putting stress on the family. That she was always the problem. She didn't argue anymore. She didn't have the energy. The words didn't matter. No one believed her. No one wanted to. It was easier for them to think it was her fault. And so she stayed quiet. Because speaking up only made things worse. Because every bruise, every scar, every tear was followed by silence. And silence became the loudest answer of all. The house was quiet late at night. Everyone was supposed to be asleep. But she couldn't sleep. Her mind kept turning, full of heavy thoughts. The floor was cold under her feet as she walked softly down the hallway. She didn't mean to listen. She didn't mean to stop. But the voices came from behind the kitchen door. Low voices, familiar ones. She stood still, heart beating fast. She recognized his voice first. Calm like always. Then her mother's voice, softer but tense. They were talking about her. Not by name, but it was clear. Words like attitude, mess, and control slipped through the crack in the door. Then she heard something else. Something that made her chest tighten. Her mother said, "Just make sure it doesn't leave marks next time." There was a pause, then a quiet laugh. His laugh. Her mother didn't sound angry. She didn't sound worried. She sounded tired. Like this wasn't the first time. She didn't move. She didn't breathe. She listened as her mother said, "You promised it would stay quiet." He answered, "As long as everyone plays their part." Her legs felt weak. She didn't understand everything, but she understood enough. They knew. They always knew. Then another sentence. Her mother asked, "How much longer until the money comes in?" That part made her stomach turn. Money. That's what this was about. She backed away from the door slowly, careful not to make a sound. Her head felt full. Her heart felt heavy. All this time, she thought they didn't see. She thought they were just pretending not to notice. But now she understood something worse. They noticed. They allowed it. Maybe they even agreed to it. She walked back to her room, legs shaking. Once inside, she locked the door and sat on the bed in the dark. She didn't cry. Not this time. Her eyes stayed dry, but her hands were cold. Her thoughts were no longer confused. They were clear. She had to protect herself. No one else would. That night, she opened an old notebook and began writing. Dates. Times. What was said. What happened before and after. She took photos of bruises, saved messages, copied phone numbers. Anything that might matter later. She didn't know who would believe her. She didn't know if anyone would care. But she needed to gather everything. In case something happened. In case it got worse. She stopped trusting her parents that night. Not because they didn't help, but because they helped him. They let it happen. They closed their eyes, then opened them again when it benefited them. In the daylight, things looked the same. Her mother still cooked. Her father still read the paper. But nothing was the same. Every smile was fake. Every word felt like poison. She stayed quiet. She smiled when needed. She nodded when asked a question. But behind her eyes, she watched. She listened. She remembered. She didn't know what she would do yet, but she knew she couldn't forget. And she knew now she was completely on her own. She sat on the cold floor, arms wrapped around her knees. Her skin hurt. Her head was spinning. The pain felt deep, not just in her body but in her chest, her stomach, her heart. She locked the bathroom door behind her and turned off the light. She didn't want to see herself in the mirror. She already knew what she looked like. At first, she just sat there, quiet, still. But something inside her began to change. The fear was still there, but something new was growing. It was hot, sharp. It didn't make her feel small like fear did. It made her feel strong, even if just a little. She didn't have a name for it yet, but it burned. She sat up straighter, took a deep breath. This had to end. Not just the pain, not just the silence. All of it. She stood and washed her face. Then she looked at herself in the mirror. For the first time, she didn't look away. Her eyes looked tired but focused. Her body felt weak, but her mind was waking up. That night, when the house was quiet, she took her phone and opened a search page. She didn't even know what to look for at first. She typed simple words. Help for girls hurt by someone older. Talk to someone without parents knowing. What to do when no one believes you. She found websites, forums, stories. Some were just like hers. Others were even worse. But she wasn't alone. That was the first thing she learned. There were people out there who knew this kind of pain. People who didn't laugh it off or look away. Some offered advice. Some just listened. She made a new account. No real name. No real photo. Just a voice. She started posting small things. Asking questions. Reading replies. It felt strange at first, talking to strangers. But they didn't judge. They didn't blame her. They believed her. She found a few people who messaged her in private. One had been through something similar. Another said she worked with a small group that helped girls in her situation. They gave her ideas, safe ways to collect proof, where to hide things, who to trust and who not to. Then one message came from someone different. The name just said Juno. No photo, no details, but the words were calm, sharp, clear. I know who he is. You're not crazy. You're not alone. At first, she was scared. How did this person know? But as they talked more, she felt something new, trust. Juno asked questions, told her what to write down, what to save, how to protect files, how to keep records without getting caught. Juno seemed to understand everything, even the silence, even the fear. But most of all, Juno understood the anger. The more they talked, the stronger she felt. Her pain didn't fade, but it became something useful. It became a plan. She started keeping a second phone, hiding notes in books, saving everything in a secret folder. She was careful, quiet, but determined. She wasn't ready to fight yet, but she was getting ready. And this time, she wasn't doing it alone. She followed every step carefully. Every word sent by the person named Juno became a quiet guide. Juno always said to move slow, stay silent, and pay attention. No rushing, no mistakes. One wrong move could ruin everything. She understood that now. So she began to collect. First, small things. Phone calls were recorded. Not all of them, just the ones that mattered. She saved them with quiet names and hidden folders. Then came messages. She took screenshots of every text. Each time he asked where she was. Each time he blamed her. Each time he lied or changed the truth. She saved emails too. She made a folder that looked like school notes, but inside were words that could break him. She learned to send copies to herself under a fake name and store them online. No one else could see, but she could get them back if needed. Juno told her to watch for patterns, so she made a list. What days he came, what he said, how he acted before and after. She noticed things she hadn't seen before. The way he smiled too wide when her parents were around. The way he touched her shoulder like she was a child, then looked at her like she wasn't. She wrote it all down. One day, she heard him talking on the phone. His voice was low, but she was close enough to hear. He said something about money, something about keeping things clean. She wasn't sure what it meant, but she recorded it. Later, Juno said it could matter. Then, while looking through an old drawer where he sometimes left his phone, she saw a folder she hadn't seen before. She didn't mean to open it, but her hand moved before she could stop it. Inside were photos. At first, she didn't understand what she was seeing. Then she did. One of the girls in the pictures was her cousin. Young. Too young. Smiling in the way that wasn't really smiling. The background was familiar. It was taken in the same park where he first took her. Her chest went cold. Her hands shook. She closed the folder and walked away. But she had already seen too much. It wasn't just her. She wasn't the only one. He had done this before. Maybe many times. Maybe with others they didn't know about yet. Juno didn't say much when she told them. Just a short message. We were right. She felt sick. Not just because of the pictures, but because no one had stopped him. Her parents let him in. Over and over. They trusted him. Maybe others had too. He smiled, and people believed him. And behind that smile, there was something dangerous. Something hidden. She wanted to scream. She wanted to run. But she didn't do either. She just wrote more, saved more, gathered more. It was no longer just about her. That feeling, the one that had started in the bathroom, grew larger now. It burned brighter. It wasn't only revenge anymore. It was protection. For the cousin in the photo. For the girl she used to be. For the next girl, whoever she might be. She added her cousin's name to her notes. She added dates and times. She started looking into other families, old school records, news reports. Juno helped. Juno knew how to search deeper. Juno had tools she didn't understand. The plan wasn't finished yet, but it was moving, like a wheel starting to turn, like a storm far away, slowly coming closer. She still smiled when needed, still stayed quiet, but inside she was never still. Every message, every recording, every saved file was one more brick in a wall she was building, a wall that would trap him, a wall that would keep others safe. She didn't know how long it would take, but she would not stop. Not now. Not after everything she had seen. Not after what she knew. Because now, she understood the truth. Monsters don't just hide in the dark. Sometimes they sit at your table. And sometimes the only way to beat them is to be smarter, quieter, and never stop watching. The light through the curtains barely touched the walls. Breath slow, heartbeat loud, thoughts sharp. The air hung heavy. Not a sound came from the hallway. Time dragged. Footsteps neared. The knob turned. 2 figures appeared. Eyes scanned the damage. No emotion. Not a question. Not even surprise. They shifted glances to the man leaning nearby. Then vanished. Stillness returned. Nothing moved. Hidden behind old notebooks, a lens captured everything. Faces. Expressions. Reactions. Every second stored. The tall man near the window shifted slightly. Uncertain now. No words passed his lips. Silence stretched. He avoided eye contact. Nervous fingers tapped his side. His confidence faded. Outside, tires rolled over gravel. Voices low. More shoes on the porch. The entrance creaked open. Hushed movements filled the hall. He stood straighter. Something different now. They came again. Not just 2. 3 entered. The stranger wore a dark coat, shoulders wide, gaze blank. He didn't speak. Didn't blink. Just looked. The man who once sneered now backed away. His mouth opened, but no sound came. Hands trembled. Eyes darted between them. Nothing came from the others. No comfort. No defense. Only quiet. Another device, resting behind a shelf, continued to film. Everything fell into place. Every shift, every twitch, every look. The truth lived in those images. The girl stayed motionless. Calm eyes. No shaking. Nothing to say. The plan was working. No questions were asked. No excuses offered. The stranger's presence was enough. His calm was louder than shouting. His steps changed the room. The one near the dresser tried to hide fear. Failed. Shoulders sagged. Mouth dry. The room no longer belonged to him. The 2 who had returned stood behind the man in black. Still not looking toward her. Not saying her name. Their silence meant more than anything else. She remained composed. Not cold. Not broken. Just done waiting. The past had been filled with noise. Shouts. Lies. Blame. This was different. This was control. Every corner of the space held a memory. But today it held something stronger, proof. The moment didn't need words. The camera didn't blink. No one could undo what had started. The room felt cold. Shadows stretched across the floor. The man in the black coat stood near the wall. He said nothing, just watched. His eyes were sharp, like he had done things before that others wouldn't dare. He didn't wear a badge. He didn't ask questions. He wasn't here to help. The man by the dresser looked at him, then at the others. His face had lost color. His voice didn't work. His legs barely held him. He knew what kind of man had just entered. Not police. Not someone who followed rules. Something worse. The 2 at the door didn't stop him. They had brought him. That much was clear. Their faces stayed blank. No regret, no fear. Just silence. The choice had already been made. They weren't here to fix anything. They were here to erase it. She didn't move. Her hands stayed still, but her mind worked fast. Every second mattered. The plan had started before they ever stepped into the house. The pain, the silence, the looks, they had all been pieces. She had seen it coming. The coat, the man, the quiet agreement. It all made sense now. Nothing about this was sudden. It had been planned, thought out, paid for. They had chosen him to finish the job they wouldn't do themselves. No mess. No voice. No evidence. But they were too late. She reached behind the bed slowly, pressing a small button hidden near the frame. A red light blinked once. Somewhere far away, her voice and video began to spread. Screens lit up across phones, computers, and inboxes. Lawyers saw it. Support groups watched. Old friends blinked at the sudden message. Each word, each image, each sound was clear. The bruises. The fear. The silence. The truth. The man in black stepped forward. She didn't blink. He paused. Something had changed. The quiet girl wasn't afraid. She looked him in the eye. Calm. Ready. He stopped walking. The man by the dresser stepped back again, his hands raised halfway, unsure. The two by the door glanced at each other, unsure too now. Something wasn't right. She pulled another small device from under a pillow. A second stream started. Different platform, different crowd. More eyes. She wasn't hiding. She wasn't begging. She was showing everything. Her voice came through the feed, not loud, but strong. She spoke names, dates, details. Stories that were always ignored now had proof. No one could pretend anymore. The man in the coat looked at the camera, then back at her. His job had changed. She wasn't alone. She had witnesses now, hundreds, maybe thousands. The door remained open behind them, but no one moved. Everything was out. Nothing could be taken back. She had stayed quiet long enough. Now the world was watching, and the deal they made no longer mattered. Voices filled the space. No more silence. No more hiding. Phones rang. Screens flashed. People talked fast. Confusion spread through every corner of the house. The man near the window backed away. His hands shook. His mouth opened, but no words came. He looked around like he was trapped. His eyes searched for a way out. None existed. The two who had stood quiet now moved fast. One grabbed the small device from the bed. The other reached for the camera on the shelf. Wires ripped, batteries flew, but nothing stopped the stream. It had already gone too far. Outside, a car stopped. Then another. Loud knocks hit the front door. Heavy boots hit the steps. The front room filled with noise. Orders shouted. Names called. Everything moved fast. People in black jackets entered first. Eyes sharp, hands steady. They pointed, searched, found what they needed. No delay. No questions. Just action. The woman stepped back as they passed. Her face pale, her arms close to her sides. She tried to speak, but no one listened. The man behind her looked even worse. Sweat on his neck. Mouth dry. He reached out but froze. In the middle of it all, she stood still. Calm eyes. Quiet face. She didn't run. She didn't speak. She didn't need to. Then someone new came in. A stranger to most, but not to her. Not a stranger to the pain. Not a stranger to the lies. This person knew. They had seen it before. Felt it. Lived it. No uniform. No badge. But a fire behind the eyes. A voice that cut through the noise. When they spoke, people listened. They stepped toward the center of the room. Looked at each face. No fear. No hesitation. Their hands held a folder. Papers, names, proof. Years of truth, packed and ready. The woman tried to stop them. The stranger didn't flinch. The man near the shelf said something under his breath. The reply came sharp and fast. Everyone froze for a moment. Then more movement. More questions. More hands grabbing evidence. The stream still played somewhere. More people watched. More messages were sent. The story couldn't be buried. The floor felt heavier. The air tighter. What they had tried to keep quiet was now loud, public, and unstoppable. Nothing could be undone. Everything was falling apart. Every lie cracked. Every secret open. And the one who once had no voice now held the power. This was the breaking point. The collapse had begun. Blue lights flashed through the windows. Cold metal clicked shut. 3 people were taken out. None looked back. Faces lowered, words gone. Neighbors peeked from doors. Some filmed. Some cried. No one spoke to her. She stood alone. Not shaking. Not broken. Just quiet. Wind touched her face, but she didn't move. The street grew loud. Voices blended into noise. Still, she stayed still. Inside, the rooms felt empty now. Furniture untouched. Walls silent. Every corner held pieces of her life, but none felt like home. She walked slowly, one step at a time. Each footstep softer than the last. The hallway led to a small door. She opened it. Dust floated in the air. Boxes, letters, photos. Old things kept away. She knew what to look for. Her hands moved fast. A folder, buried deep under clothes, came out. She sat in the middle of the room. The papers inside told another story. Not his, not theirs. Hers. Before everything. Before pain had a name. She read each line. Her eyes didn't blink. Then she stood. The sun dropped low outside. Sky turned orange. The trees whispered. The street now quiet. She walked to the kitchen. Took a small bottle from under the sink. Her fingers didn't shake. She moved with care. Each corner of the house met the clear liquid. Stairs. Walls. Curtains. She stopped near a picture frame. It showed smiles that were never real. She stared at it. Not with hate. Not with love. Just tired eyes. Then dropped it. In the center of the floor, she lit a match. The flame started small. Bright, steady, calm. She stepped outside. Watched from the yard. Light flickered through the windows. Smoke curled up. Heat rose. Behind her, a bag waited. Packed. Ready. She didn't cry. Didn't scream. Just watched. The fire grew stronger. Wood cracked. Glass popped. Memories melted. No one stood beside her. No one called her name. She walked down the road without turning back. One match. One choice. One ending. And her last words stayed in the wind. Sometimes, to kill the rot, you have to burn the roots too. If her silence shook something in you, don't just scroll. Share this with someone who's been overlooked, unheard, or doubted. Tag a soul who's been through darkness but still stands. Let them know survival is strength. Revenge is silent. Healing is loud. Drop a fire emoji if you believe truth always rises. Save this for the day your strength is tested. Because when they pretend not to see your pain, just remember, you were never invisible. You were just becoming unstoppable. Your storm didn't break you. It built your fire, and your reckoning is coming.